Hey friends, before we get started with today's episode, I wanted to let you know that I have just a few spots left for the two dreamy trips to France this September. So first we've got Paris and Versailles, which is for couples, and that is September 14th through the 19th. We are going to be in Versailles with Molly doing a private pastry class from her apartment. We are going to spend 2 fabulous nights in Versailles because I love that little city. It's beautiful and stunning. You will love it too. Then we will be off to Paris and we have a walking tour with Claudine Hemingway. We have a market tour and cooking class with Veronique with Cuisine Elegante. We'll be making an amazing multi-course lunch while drinking champagne and be in her beautiful Parisian apartment. We are going to be pickers for the day. We're going to Champagne with Cindy Couteau and going to this beautiful small champagne producer, family run, woman led. She's 10th generation. Her name is Christine. I cannot pronounce the name of the champagne house, so I'm not even going to hurt your ears by trying, but you will love it. It's going to be amazing. Then the next trip is in the Charente-Maritime, and it's just a day later. And we will be starting in Bordeaux and then having a fabulous lunch at the Intercontinental Hotel before we head off to the Charente-Maritime region to check into our gorgeous chateau that we have rented the entire property. It's on a 75-acre park. It's unbelievable. My friend Jeff is going to be our private chef, so he'll be providing all of the dinners that we take at the chateau. We're going to visit Ile de Ré. We're going on a river cruise. We are going to make beautiful silver jewelry at this woman's chateau that she purchased recently. And we're going to do a private tour and tasting at Citadel Gin, my favorite. So much goodness, so much beauty, so much time to relax, so much time to engage and discover, so much time to shop for your own property in France if you are so inclined. We'll have lots of conversations with expats that have done just that. It's so dreamy. If you can't decide, you don't have to. You can come to both, like some of my clients are doing. But I just wanted you to know about those two things: Paris and Versailles, September 14th through the 19th, the Charente-Maritime, September 20th to the 26th. The link is in the show notes. Save your spot today. I cannot wait to play with you in France. Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hey friends, welcome back. I'm excited that you're here. It is so beautiful and warm and full of summer goodness this week in particular, which I know I'm recording this introduction way before you listen to it, but this is the week of a holiday photo shoot at my house, which was so fun. I got to decorate my house for Christmas in June, which is super fun because I love doing that. So The idea of doing that twice in 1 year is delightful. And I am only available for what delights me. So that was really fun. And I have my summer solstice white party, which I'm so excited. It is one of my favorite things. I only do favorite things. So I always feel silly saying that because you're my favorite, and that's my favorite, and France is my favorite, and farm stays are my favorite. And that is just what happens when you're only available for what delights you. You only have favorite things on your list. So that is one of my favorite things. I'm super excited. If you were here, thank you. I'm so excited. If you missed it and you think that sounds so dreamy and you want to be at our next community dinner, the next one is in October. So October 14th, we're having Friendsgiving in the barn, and that's on Columbus Day. So even if you're traveling for that weekend, you can still come because it's on Monday afternoon. So super, super fun. And that's also Canadian Thanksgiving Day. So there we go. There's links for all of that goodness in the show notes. And I am so excited about today's guest. So I met her a couple of weeks ago as a part of a summer fun summit that Anna K. Morris put together. You may remember her episode a few weeks back. She's the woman that traveled all over the world for 3 years with her husband. So fun, so fun. So Anna introduced me to a whole group of fabulous women. Among them is Stephanie Affinito. She is a bookologist, which is such a fabulous title and a fabulous woman to give you permission to purchase, own, and display as many books as your heart's desires. It's so good. So Stephanie Affinito is a passionate advocate for the transformative power of books and writing. Through her blog, podcast, and coaching endeavors, Stephanie delves into the profound impact of literature on our lives, weaving together stories of personal growth, healing, and empowerment. Her journey from a childhood immersed in books to navigating through life's challenges with the solace of literature showcases the profound influence of reading and writing on our well-being. She has an inspiring vision and commitment to fostering restorative reading practices for a brighter, more connected future. She blogs about the power of leading literate lives at alitlife.com and podcasts weekly on books and reading, writing, and notebooks, and everything in between on Get Lit for It. She also chats with a new children's literature author every week on her Kid Lit Love podcast. Oh my gosh, she's so fun. She is going to be creating a list of books for anyone that's coming to the Phineas Wright House for their reading retreat as a part of their farm stay. She will create a book apothecary. She is our resident bookologist. It's all so fun. And I'm really excited for you to hear this conversation with my friend Stephanie. Sweet Stephanie, I am so excited about this call and about this conversation. Sweet listeners, we have been, Stephanie and I, trading emails since the wee hours of the morning because we are both early risers and idea factories. So I'm super excited to introduce her to you, and I'm so excited to have you here, Stephanie. Thank you.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. I have been looking forward to this conversation, but since about 6 in the morning, I've really been looking forward to the conversation.
It's so fun. So just to catch everybody up, you and I were introduced through Anna K. Morris, who was on the podcast a few weeks ago. And she is the kind of person that while you're in conversation, you launch 3 new businesses and plan international travel and organize your closet at the same time. She has so much great energy and makes you feel like you can do anything. And so I love that she is the catalyst that brought us together, because it's just nice when fabulous people curate your new friend list. You feel like you don't have to start at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. She has been such a wonderful influence in my
Mhm.
life lately. From her coaching. The Fun Summit was fun. It was just plain old fun, and to meet all of these people. And so I'm so glad we were able to connect there.
Yes. Oh, it was so great. So, besides being a part of that and connecting to those women, how are you saying yes to yourself in this season?
I am saying yes to myself in this season through my passion that I have had my entire life, which is books and reading and notebooks and writing. That is literally the only way I started to figure out how to say yes to myself, which has then
Mm.
started this beautiful domino effect or chain reaction that starts with a book or a little scribble of an idea in a notebook and then turns into something if I listen and I take the inspired action from it. So, books and notebooks, those are my tools for saying yes to myself, um, in a way that's probably a little bit different, than someone might think. So, I kind of have to give you a little bit of the backstory, to go there. But I've always been a reader and a writer. I've loved it since I was a little girl. I was the kid who would say no to everything just so that I could tunnel away somewhere and be by myself getting lost in a book. And so, that love of reading followed me, and I became a teacher. I became a teacher who only wanted to teach reading. So I became a
Mm.
reading teacher who then wanted to teach other people about the power of reading, and ultimately ended up where I am today, which is a literacy teacher educator at my local university, working with teachers who want to become reading teachers too, who want to
Mm.
share that love of reading and books and writing with kids. And so my life has always revolved around books and reading, and it really cemented in my early teenage years. I became sick. I had a chronic illness.
Mm.
Took me out of school for a couple of years.
Oh,
We
wow.
traveled doctors, hospitals, clinics, you name it. I was there. I tried it. It was a really difficult time, but books and notebooks, those were the things that got me through. I couldn't
Mm.
really get out of bed, but I could read and escape wherever I wanted to
Mm.
go. I was struggling, with what do I do now? What's going to happen kind of feelings. And so my notebook always listened. So they were friends, right? They were
I
friends,
love
they were tools,
this.
and they became so, so very important to me. And so that's why I've kind of spent my career surrounded by them. But I realized when I was a kid that they weren't just hobbies, right? They weren't just indulgences. These were things that made me feel better, and they
Mm.
made me feel good. And I actually read one book which connected me to one doctor, which connected me to the new protocol and the new diet that ultimately got me out of bed, right? It
Oh my
fixed, I don't
gosh.
want to say fixed me, but I became well. And I really credit finding that idea and then doing something about it from the book as the impetus that literally set me back in motion in my life. So books mean everything to me. And
Oh
then,
my gosh.
so I've always been that reader since. I always look at books a little bit differently now, that they are just things that could literally save our lives. And then the pandemic comes. And if you were a teacher in the pandemic, you were busy, right? You weren't home trying the sourdough recipe or figuring out how to fill your time. You were on Zoom calls, and you were figuring out how to put instruction online. Like everyone, it was a really stressful time. And that same illness that took me out as a kid was trying to take me out again
Mm.
as 40 something year old. And I, of course, was struggling. I thought, oh no, here we go again. What do
Mm.
I do? And I thought back. And I thought, okay, what saved me last time? And of course, it was books and it was writing. But this time, this go round, I had a lot of education, a lot of research, a lot of experience. And so I wanted to know why. I wanted to
Hmm.
know why books and writing were healing, why they were important tools for wellness, why they could help us make life better. And so I really dug into the research. I explored the physical benefits, the mental benefits, the cognitive benefits. What happens when you pair reading and writing with other wellness modalities like aromatherapy or sound therapy or yoga? And I was going down the most wonderful rabbit hole. And when you go down the most wonderful rabbit hole and you get a rationale for why this might matter to you, for me, it made it easier for me to say yes again. Because yes,
Hmm.
life was busy, and yes, I had kids, and yes, I had a job, and yes, we were in a pandemic. But yes, if I don't do this, I might not get out of bed.
Hmm.
It was the reminder and the rationale that saying yes for me meant more time reading, more time writing, more time learning, and then taking the action that I learned from that book or that experience. Um, that is how I say yes to myself, to open up just whole other worlds that I didn't even consider that can make life feel really good and feel better. And that was a very long-winded explanation, Wendy, but I think you needed the background.
I love all of it. Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. I have 1,000 questions. I just, I love that your yes is so indulgent and so it fills your cup so that you can give to others. So it feels very decadent. It is only for you because it's only being processed in your body at first. And then all the benefits of that time, that space you held for yourself, as well as the information gathered in the book and the inspiration that's a result of that information and your journaling practice on the other side of that just opens up a whole new world to which everyone in your care and in your proximity get the beautiful effects of. It's stunning.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
It's, I never knew scientifically why reading and writing made me feel better as a teenager, but I know now. So
Hmm.
if we read just 6 minutes of reading, Wendy, just 6 minutes of reading, our heart rate slows, our blood pressure drops, we get a physical response in our body. And if we just have 6 minutes of reading a day over time, our memory improves, our
Hmm.
risk for cognitive related difficulty and declines as we age. There's a lot of research that shows reading can boost happiness, decrease depression, lower anxiety, all of those things. And if we go past the 6 minutes to 30 minutes, 30 minutes of reading has the same impact on our parasympathetic nervous system, the calm the heck down nervous system, as 30 minutes of yoga.
Oh, wow.
And so I realized as a kid, those all of that reading, it wasn't just helping me escape. It was literally calming down my overactive
Hmm.
immune system. And there's research that shows that reading, especially when we pair it with a couple of doses of writing, it can actually lower the inflammation in our body. It can
Wow.
make us feel physically better as well as mentally better, which then when you combine both, you are definitely better able to share that with the people and the world around you. And I think for a lot of busy people, knowing, okay, this isn't just me indulging in a book. This isn't me being selfish. No, no, no. This is you literally saving your own life in some cases, or just making your mental health a priority, your physical health a priority. And it's that backstory, that back rationale. When you know it, you can't help but make that time for yourself.
Mm, it's so good. In this community, on this podcast, we have redefined selfishness as self-preservation,
Mhm.
and we celebrate that. And
Yeah,
we celebrate doing things just for ourselves, because I think a lot of our conditioning and our culture says that's bad and you have to give to everybody else or else you're selfish.
yeah,
When I feel like we're just creating an environment for everybody else to be selfish when we just give like that. And you can't, there has to be a give and take. You can't just exhale all
right,
day long and never inhale, or you will not be able to do that anymore. You
right.
can't do either. So I love that there are, besides the benefits of just taking a break, but there are so many other benefits as well. Now, does this depend on what we're reading? So is it like, if I was likening it to TV, like if I'm watching a documentary on something that is, very important, compared to I'm watching back seasons of Grey's Anatomy, because that just feels really good. And also, I can pick up that show anywhere. Like I'm
No,
just in. They get me. I love that show. That is my guilty pleasure. Um, so does it matter what we're reading? Are there different effects, or is it just the practice of the slowing down, the stopping, I mean, it's almost a form of meditation. If you can't quiet your mind, at least you're shifting into somebody else's, into their thoughts.
yeah. The good news is it doesn't matter what you're reading.
This is
There's
the
no
best
such thing as a
diet
guilty
ever.
pleasure. Yeah, no guilty pleasures. It's all good. It is actually the physical act of sitting or at least not moving, slowing down, focusing on one thing, and the fact that your eyes are moving back and forth consistently in this left to right format is what triggers the actual calming down of the system. And so it doesn't matter what you are reading, it's just that you are engaged in the reading. Now, we
Mm,
could take it a step further and say, what you read does matter, though. You
sure.
will still get all of those wonderful physical effects from any reading, right? Whether it's, a fancy nonfiction book or a Harlequin romance, right? You're still going to get those benefits. But what I love to recommend to people is that you read books that are especially perfect for you, right?
Mhm.
Don't read the latest book because you think you should, right?
Right.
Don't read something because your book club is, but you don't really like it. If you really want to get the most benefits out of it, particularly those cognitive and emotional benefits, reading books that are suited to you in whatever phase of life you're in,
Mm,
whatever you're going through that you want to get through, or whatever your goals are that you're trying to reach for, choosing particular books to match those particular goals or needs or wishes for you will just elevate
sure.
those cognitive and emotional benefits, but you can read any old thing and get those physical benefits, which is wonderful, isn't it?
It's amazing. I'm so thrilled to have this information. I enjoyed reading. It wasn't something that well, let me rethink this. So I've always been a person who is I delight in the work of my hands. So always doing something. Now that I live on a flower farm, there are lots of things to do outside, but prior to that, when I lived in California, I was always baking, cooking, preserving, having dinner parties. I was a wedding planner. Like, there were always things. And I enjoyed reading. And that was probably a vacation situation or on my nightstand, but never middle of the day situation. And once I moved to the farm, there's reading. There's no sitting when the sun is up. Like, what are
Right.
you thinking? That is like, I take my lunch standing up. Like, it's just because once I sit, it's done. So,
Yeah.
and then when I started my morning routine, which happened, I'm going to say accidentally, and I've told the story on the podcast many times, but it was something that I enjoyed the idea of, but I really just didn't think it was available to me. And a friend asked me why I thought that, and then what my morning routine would be if I had one. And I like listed all of these characteristics of it. And then the next day I woke up without an alarm and I thought, oh, I'm going to try this thing. And so I did. And that's when I started reading again. And I have found it to be so enjoyable. So there's just something about, like you said, having an assignment to read, like your book club is reading it, or everyone's talking about it and you feel like you should read it if it's about, something that is aligned with your values. But
Yeah.
I know sometimes I just can't get, I'm not clicking with the author or their writing style or things like that. So um there are, should reads, and the way in the books that I'm reading now and the ways that I'm learning now, I am just a sponge for this information, for this entrepreneurial journey, for this spiritual and personal development, for the melding of those two things. I'm I'm a sponge. And I find in my morning routine that I think I said this on my podcast episode with Gina DeVee. She wrote a book called The Audacity to Be Queen. And I had her on the podcast a few weeks ago. And I read her book 7 times in a row because in my morning routine, I would just, read a chapter a day. And then at the end of the book, I would just ask, am I complete with this book
Right.
or is there more? And I just kept hearing, there's more here, there's more here, there's more here,
Yes.
there's more here 6 times. So
Yes.
I just kept reading it and now I'm complete until I'm not. So it's really fascinating how there are ebbs and flows in my reading journey, but what felt so decadent and so indulgent and not a benefit to get more work done, that was a lie because I have this wealth of information and knowledge and expansion and ideas and catalyst for more ideas. And it's beautiful. It opened up an entire world that I didn't realize was available to me.
Yes.
And I would have said prior to that, I'm really nice, but I'm not very smart. And I had a rocky educational experience in my younger life. And, even into my 50s, was holding on to that narrative, which is not in service. And I had to hear from, I don't know, 1,000 people, but then the 1,001 person that said, Wendy, that was so long ago. Your life experience has made you who you are now, when the
Yeah.
student is ready, the teacher appears. And so I was able to let go of that story and create a new one. And now I feel I'm very smart and I know things because I'm gaining information from outside sources, but I'm running that through the filter of me and believing that I am wise and I have a knowing and a certainty because of my wiser future self that is in me, my intuition, and that this is just a way that I'm continuing to expand.
Oh, I have so many things I want to say, Wendy.
Yay.
So number one, I think there are a lot of people who, when they think about reading, do have not so wonderful experiences, perhaps memories from school, or, oh, I don't have enough time. There are so many things that can get in the way. And I think what happens a lot is that our reading life, when we want one or when we start to get one, often becomes controlled by outcomes. Well, how many
Mm,
books did you read? And how many book clubs are you part of? And are you on Goodreads? And what's your TBR shelf like? And what's your number? And what's your number? And it becomes this outcome driven thing of I read to say I've read books, right? I read for
mm,
a number. I read to be able to say it. And I say, no. The goals that I would love for people to have in their reading life is the complete opposite of what most bookstagrammers or, whatever the celebrities are saying about which books you should read. And I say, we need to flip that. We
mm,
need to say, who do I want to be? How do I want to feel? And what do I want to do? And
mm,
which books are going to help me grow into that version of me that I want? And that's what you did. That's what you did. And you listen to the books and you just ask, what is a message that
mhm,
I'm supposed to hear? What was that one quote that I can't get out of my head? What was that little whisper of an idea? I love Liz Gilbert and Big Magic.
mm,
So, those little whispers, those little nudges, you have them. We have them. The trouble is we might ignore them
mhm,
or not act on them, or, as we joked about earlier, forget about them if we don't do something with them right away. And books are catalysts for that
yeah,
kind of thinking that's already there, but we need to see a character feel that way. We need to see
mm,
a character do that thing.
yeah,
We
yeah,
travel to that place or explore that concept. We need to see that as a potential mentor for our own. And they may be fictional mentors, and that is just fine because they act as just as powerful life coaches as if they were real people there. And so I love that. That's what I want people to think about. Who do I want to be? How do I want to feel? What do I want to do? And then which books will help
mm,
me grow into that version? And then, which notebooks and which things might I jot down too as an extension? Because the books that we choose, they really matter. I don't know if you love this quote as much as I do, but Jim Rohn has a quote that says, "You are the average of the five people you
mm,
spend the most time with." I like
100%.
to tell people, what if you were the average of the last five books you read?
Oh, I would love that.
Right? What would that say
Mm,
about you? Do you like what it would say about you? Do you want it to say something else? And if you have a particular feeling about what those messages might be, guess what? We just have to change our five books.
right.
That's a lot easier sometimes than changing the five people, but that's a start to getting where you want to go.
Oh my gosh. It's so good. And you're right about watching or reading a character and their development. And it's the same as if you're in a group coaching program and someone is getting coaching and you're listening to it. Sometimes we can implement, for me, almost every time, I can implement what my mentor is coaching
Yes.
my fellow cohort member on so much better because I'm not trying to listen and integrate and
That's
rebut the coaching. I'm just hearing it as a third party, or I'm eavesdropping,
yes.
and I get so much more out of it. And yes, absolutely the same thing in a book. I
Mhm,
love that.
mhm.
It's so fascinating too because I'm just having an awareness around like testimonials, and when someone writes a review for the bed and breakfast or for one of my France trips or for something that a coach that I'm looking into has done, I can see myself in their transformation. So we're just reading reviews on how to become the person that we want to be. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. And that's why I'm so glad in the publishing world right now to see more people, more voices, more stories, because in order to see ourselves in a book or to see something different in a book, which is just as, if not more important today, I would say, we need people who are willing to write those stories down
Right.
and create them and share them. And so there's this beautiful back and forth of, in order to really get something big out of a book, someone else has to be okay with telling every single story, because every
Mm,
single story that someone has, someone else needs to hear.
right.
That's why I think both are so important to me, both the reading and the writing. Um, the more stories that are out there, the more that we can see ourselves, we can see, and then we can make those choices. And I kind of joke that, figuring out what to read next, isn't really the most glaring life decision, but it kind of could be. It
Right.
really, really could be, depending on the book that you read. And that's why I love matching books to people so much, because I know personally that one book could just make all the difference.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I want to ask you about that, but I also want to say how delightful it is to speak with someone who is encouraging and I never can say this word right. Championing. I don't know how you'd say that. Like you are
Championing, you're right.
championing. There's too many syllables. It messes my tongue up. But what some people will say, I have a serious book problem. I do not think we have a book problem. First of all, we're
Mhm.
supporting beautiful, brave souls that have written their story. And with the explosion of self publishing, more of these stories are becoming available. Just like with podcasts, more voices are being heard. And it doesn't mean it's a lesser book because it's not from a publishing. That's just dumb. Like,
Right.
no, please, if you're a writer and you think that your story isn't important because Random House Publishing doesn't think, forget them. We don't even know them. Why do we care what they think? I want to hear your story. I want to read your story. I want you to talk about your story on this podcast. I we are celebrating each other. So I love that. And I love that you are also validating my notebook addiction, which, if you can see
Oh.
over my shoulder, I have at least 30 journals right there and more up there because well, I love paper. I
Yes.
also like, I no shade on the Audible book peeps, and I love that you have that capacity to do that, but I am an underliner and I have to have a physical. So the remedy of not being overwhelmed or believing that you have a book problem is just to never move.
Yeah.
It's only a bummer when you have to lift that
When
box.
you
So
have to
just
box them all
don't
up.
move. So just
You're
don't
right.
move.
You're
You're
right.
fine.
That's what I tell people. Because a lot of people say, "Oh, I have a book problem. I have a TBR problem. I have a notebook problem."
What's a
Listen, it's only
TBR? I'm sorry.
a TBR is to be read stack.
Oh,
So
funny.
the growing number of books that we
Yeah, I
all
have that
want
too.
to read but don't have time for. And I say to them, "Listen, it's only a problem if you think it's a problem, right?" Because I like to say books are patient. And they will wait as
Oh, I love
long as they
that.
need. They will wait for us. And so just lovingly take care of them until you get to them. And there's just something for me about looking at a bookshelf,
Mhm.
looking at the stacks of books, and just to me, it's just possibilities. And I want to surround myself with as many possibilities as I can. And those are just little portable possibilities. So if you think you have a book problem, you really, really don't.
Well, you're in the right place because
That's
we're
right.
telling you you don't.
You're in good company.
You also do not have a shoe problem.
That's
You
right.
also do not have a cookbook problem. You also do not have a handbag problem. I
That's
get
right.
it. You don't have to undress to try any of those things on. So they fit. I love it. And we support all of your beautiful
That's right.
addictions.
That's
It's
right.
so good.
Whatever makes you feel good, right?
Right? It's so beautiful. And I love that it's just a form of discovery. And sometimes, I mean, I have a very large pile of my TBR, now that I know what that is, list, and I'm looking because there are some over here. Sometimes I just feel better in the buying of this book. Sometimes like that, I mean, it's just like some of the courses we take. The
Yes.
transformation comes with the transaction. I bought this book. First of all, it's beautiful. And it's called On Our Best Behavior: The Seven Deadly Sins and the Price Women Pay to Be Good.
Oh, tell me
I
the author. I think I know the
Elise
It
Lowen.
is Elise. Yes, she used to be on the Goop podcast and I adore her.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I just feel like I get chills when I read I have not even cracked this book open yet because I feel like I'm either going to be empowered or mad or something. But anyway, sometimes it's just the buying of the book. It's yes, I am casting a vote for the woman I am becoming. And the woman I am becoming cares about what this book says it's about.
Yeah.
And I want to be her too. So maybe my birthday is Sunday. Maybe I will gift myself some time in the middle of the day to sit and crack that book open.
That is a wonderful feeling. Middle of the day reading and writing really, really is an indulgent feeling. If you
Mm-hmm.
want that like self-love, self-care boost, it's like just put everything else down, set the timer on your phone and read. It is the most wonderful feeling.
It's so good. And if the timer goes off and you are not done reading, then don't set the
Right.
timer again and just keep reading.
That's
Because
right.
you said books are patient, and I love that. That's so beautiful. And, there's just a truth of when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and you are not going to miss out on what's meant for you, first of all. And the time that you read that particular book, or you are able to embody that particular principle, or you have an aha from a book you've already read 6 times, and the seventh time you're like, oh my gosh, I understand that now, or I never even saw that before. I feel like that with the Bible. It's like the thinnest pages of any book I've ever read, and the depth of, I mean, you can dig in that book for thousands of years, like people have, and still not mine all the goodness. But anyway, um, it's just at the right time. And I think that's so beautiful that you don't have to feel guilty if you have a big pile of books that you haven't read. You don't have to feel anything but joy and invitation, because that's all they're saying to you. They're
Yeah.
saying, I'm so happy to be here, and I'm happy you're here too.
Yeah, I love that. It is an invitation. It's an invitation that I think if we read with an open mind and an open heart,
Mm.
that we get those ideas. And as an example, there's one book that I love. It's called, well, there's a lot of books that I love.
Right.
One
Like,
that
how do you
comes to
do
mind,
that?
one that comes to mind is called This Time Could Be Different by Kristen
Mm.
Wireman. And it is a book about a woman who is having some big life changes and is trying to figure out and grapple with what comes next. And so she visits a therapist, who I wish could be my real therapist in real life. She's wonderful. And she makes a lot of big, bold life moves that you
Mm.
can't help but wonder about the big, bold life moves for your own life.
Oh.
But I bring this book up because when I say read with an open mind, read with an open heart, look for those inspired action moments. From this book alone, number one, I made my very first audio meditation as a result of reading this book because I wanted to bottle that therapist. She had a session with a
Mm.
therapist who led her through a meditation that I wanted on repeat. So I literally put some music on. I read word for word what the therapist was saying in a nice, slow voice. And now I have her words on my shoulder, on my phone. whenever I want it
In your voice.
in my voice.
Right. Speaking to the future version of yourself.
That's it.
That's
Yeah.
so beautiful.
That was
Mm.
one of my favorites. I also, from this book, I made my own facial cream, Wendy.
I'm so excited. I can't wait to read this book.
Yeah, the character gave it a try, so off I go online and I bought the oils and all the stuff to make that. So when you read, there are some little things that might seem silly or, oh, I don't have the time to do that, or whatever your excuse is, but doing the thing that you thought of that inspired you while you were reading.
Mm-hmm.
Gretchen Rubin, one of my favorites, says, choose the bigger life. And
Mm.
all of these little things just help you choose a bigger life, whether it's an audio meditation or making face cream or making a big, bold career move like she ultimately did. So these little nudges could be super tiny and sometimes they can be really big, but there's always something I think that we can take away. And that is where the magic happens. When you have the book, when you know who you want to be, how you want to feel, what you want to do, and you listen to whatever that message was, big or small, and you do it, oh my gosh, it just feels so, you feel so good. You feel so good. And it was free, right? It could have been
Yes.
a library book that was free that prompted you to make this small or big change that just feels so good.
Oh my gosh. Okay. This is like such, now I'm advocating for day reading
Yeah.
because
Right.
I don't want all the, I mean, this is why I read as a part of my morning routine as well. But if I was only reading for 15 minutes before I went to bed, I would have
Right.
to get up and like
That's right.
implement all of these fabulous ideas or maybe journaling like a crazy person and I would not be able to fall asleep because I'd be like, oh, get me out there.
Yeah.
I want to do this. I want to
Yes.
up level here. So that is so beautiful. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Thank
Oh
you
my
for
gosh,
this.
you're
This is
welcome.
great. And I'm so excited to play with you. We've been talking about having a reading retreat here, and Stephanie has agreed to be our librarian in residence. So she will, you said a bookologist.
A bookologist is the fun
I
name I made up for
love
my,
it.
yes.
I love it. So you curate reading lists for people, and you mentioned earlier how you match people with books. What is that process?
Yes. So I call that creating a personalized book apothecary for
Oh,
people because
gorgeous.
I love fun
Those are
names
good
for it.
words.
Yes. So basically, I chat with people who are looking to really harness the power of their reading and writing life to make life better. And so we talk about when might be the best time to read. How do you like to read best? What are those things that I mentioned earlier? Who do you want to be right now? How do you want to feel? What do you want to do? Because if there's anything that I've learned from my whole wellness journey, is that in order to get what you want on the outside of the world, you have to feel it
Yeah,
on the inside first. And it
right.
is so hard sometimes to cultivate feelings that are opposite or different than the ones you want to have. But if you immerse yourself in a story, all those mirror neurons kind of fire in your
Mm,
brain that help you bring that to life. So I learn more about the person, who they are right now, who they want to be. And then my reading brain just starts pinging around like, oh, this book, that book, that book. And, I have certain books for certain things, certain feelings, certain concepts, certain ideas, but I read a lot. And I've got, this, probably people would think I'm nuts, but a spreadsheet.
I love that. Nobody thinks anybody's nuts. We all celebrate. Everything you do is brilliant. Listener, as well as
That is
Stephanie,
a
as
good
well as
reminder.
me.
Yeah. So I am constantly just kind of mentally curating those books,
Gorgeous.
and I kind of package them together and then have a set of books that I'm pretty sure that person will really benefit from and be able to take some of those inspired action moves that we talk about. It's my favorite thing
Oh my
to be able to
gosh.
share, whether you're adult, whether you're a child, that book matchmaking. Oh, it's a wonderful, wonderful process.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I love it. Now, how are you implementing the reading and writing together. So do you have a process at the end of the time that you've read? Do you have some journal prompts that you just go right to just cement that, or what's your process?
Yeah, and I'll preface it saying, remember, any kind of reading and writing that you can do is going to get you those benefits that we mentioned. Just 6 minutes of reading a day. It doesn't matter how or where or with who or with what. And with writing, we know that those writing benefits come with just 15 to 20 minutes of writing 3 to 4 times a month. So we can
Wow.
we can do it, right? It's doable. What I love to do, I coined restorative reading. It
Oh,
is
pretty.
a reading session where we are aiming for 30 minutes of reading so we can get that impact on our parasympathetic nervous system. We start with some sort of signal that this is our time, whether it's lighting a candle, putting the diffuser on, putting the background music of your choice, couple of deep breaths, we settle in, we read. We take a break or two to look up and stretch our eyes. I'm really big into yoga for the eyes because, oh, my eyes are just, I need these reading glasses. So, a little break mixed in somewhere based on how you feel. And then at the end of that session, I recommend just a couple of minutes in your notebook. Nothing big, nothing that someone needs to stress about. Oh, my good writer, what would I put in the page? No, it's a thought. It's a phrase that came to your mind. It's that one idea that popped into your head. It's going back and writing down your
Mhm.
favorite quote. There's a lot of research on modality and that kinesthetic. This is the word I can never say.
Right.
Kinesthetic.
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 Yep.
Where if you write the quote down and you actually embody the quote in writing, that you feel it more and it resonates more. So collecting those quotes or whatever came to your mind, putting it on paper somehow in 5 minutes or less rounds out the experience. And then I love people to say before they leave, you know, what did I need to know from this?
Mm.
And how might it make the rest of my day better? Like to really prompt you to be constantly thinking of, this was a gift that I gave to myself that can really change the rest of whatever that day looks like. And so that just takes the any old time reading that is beneficial and just magnifies it, pairs it with
Right.
all that we know about wellness and mindfulness and even creativity and writing and kind of packages it together in a way that's really going to help settle your system.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And I'm so happy that I already do some of those things. So that feels good.
Yay.
And I like to, when I'm journaling and reading at the same time, and I catch a quote, I underline it in the book, then I
Yes.
rewrite it in my journal, and I pick a certain word, and I do some faux hand lettering, not pointed
Oh, I
pen
love hand lettering. I
calligraphy.
do too.
It's
Yes.
so fun. So I choose the word that really stands out and put that in my journal so that as a part of the quote. So when I'm leafing through my journal,
Yes.
those catch my eye and then I can get back to that quote, which is just very fun. Two things that I would love to say. We will definitely put those questions down in the show notes. So, listener, if you're loving that, but you're driving or folding laundry or out for a walk and you couldn't write those questions down, just scroll down and get those questions out of the show notes because it's really such a beautiful practice. And also, that practice with the intentional time of reading and then writing what was the message here for me will cause you to be aware of those same questions while you're not reading, while you're out and about. We've talked about before on the podcast how I'm being very aware and practicing presence, and I've been twirling around in my field for like a month now because I'm just so delighted and happy, and this place is beautiful, and I have allowed myself to hire farm hands this season. So I'm having help for the first time, and consistent help for the first time. I've had lots of fabulous people help me along the way. So I don't want to discount that. But this level of support, I have never allowed myself to indulge in. And we get so much done when there's more than just me. And so they leave and I'm still out there for a few more hours and I'm inspired and delighted by it. And so anyway, I'm just literally twirling around, giggling to myself and swimming in appreciation and gratitude that this is my life and I dreamed it and now it's my life because I am the deliberate creator of my experience and so is everybody else.
Yeah.
And I find that whenever a situation is new or something happens, like I'm driving and I see a sign that says the road's going to be closed on Sunday, I think, oh, that's interesting. I must need that information. And then within a short amount of time, somebody's talking to me about some place that they're going and they're going on Sunday night. And I can say, oh, did you know that the highway is going to be closed at 9? So you might want to leave earlier or take a different route. I mean, and they're silly things seemingly, but it's also helpful when something that comes that's unexpected and maybe considered unwelcomed. I'm now approaching that experience with curiosity and discovery and thinking, oh, that's interesting. I wonder why I need to know that. I'm going to be on the lookout for who I can share that information with or something that's coming that's going to, I'm going to need the information myself. It's just a fun way to experience my days with curiosity.
Well, you said something at the Anna K. Morris's Fun Summit that I wrote down instantly and put on a sticky note right over there. Listeners can't see it. And I don't know if I captured your words exactly, but you said something like, I am only here for what delights me.
I am only available for what
I'm
delights me.
only available for what delights me. And I was listening with a friend who texted me those exact words. And I said, I know, I've already got them written down too.
Oh,
It's
thank you.
a beautiful philosophy that you can just hear and you can see. And so I love it. I
Oh
love
my
that.
gosh. And mastery comes from repetition because the
Right.
first time I said that out loud, I laughed out loud because
Yeah.
it surprised me when I uttered those words. And then when I said it to somebody else, I felt a little bit nervous and they responded, are you, is that a thing? Are you allowed
Yeah.
to do that? And then I was like, yes, it's a thing. And yes, I'm allowed. And so are you. So let's do this. And it just became something that, so many times we collectively and me think that if we say this thing out loud, someone's going to think we're crazy or someone's going to tell us how we can't have it or someone's going to crush our dream or something is going to happen. If we say it, it's going to be crushed. And the opposite, like something that is it just makes us feel shame. We think if we ever say that out loud, it will crush us. And the opposite is true. Like once you utter the thing that is causing shame on the inside, it's like a balloon that wasn't tied off. It loses all of its air, all of its power. As soon as you say it out loud, it's done, deflated. It's only growing because it's in a vacuum.
Yeah.
And your dream, when you say it out loud, nobody's going to crush that. I mean, if they do, don't tell them, tell me. It grows. Our thoughts grow as they are shared. And once we get those dreams out of our body, like in us, embody them and start saying them, they become our reality. So if you are walking around saying, I can't read in the middle of the day. I don't know who you ladies think you are, but welcome to my world. I have this job I hate. I've got all these children. All I do is laundry and work, all the things. You saying that is repeating
Yeah.
You are deliberately creating your own experience, and
Yeah.
it's not the experience you desire. So let's just create a new one. And
Yeah.
if you don't have any idea how to do that, then read a book about a woman who did it and then do what she
Right.
did.
That's right. That's right. And I'd like to point out too, sometimes it can be scary to say those things
Sure.
out loud. I have found that my first go-to, my first move when I need to do something like that is to write it down. So because I always say, I say books are patient, and I say notebooks are non-judgmental.
Ooh,
No,
love
a
it.
notebook will never make fun of your dream. A notebook will never make you feel shame, right? It is just the holding place. And I found if I can write it first, and then I read my writing, and by reading my writing, I'm saying it is like a little tiny baby steps to getting to where we need to go.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I could obviously talk to you all day, and I
I
look
know.
forward to when we do that. I'm so excited to have you come. Thank you for being here. Please tell everybody how they can find and follow you, how they can have you create an apothecary of books for them. Tell us everything.
Oh, I would love to. Thank you. The easiest way to find me is on my website, where I try to link to everything. And that website is alitlife.com.
Love
And
it.
there you'll find links to my podcast. I have one podcast that is called Get Literate, where we read, write, learn, and love our way to whatever we want our life to look like. Those episodes are every Tuesday. And then I also have a podcast called Kidlit Love, because I have a special place in my heart for children's literature. I think all adults should still read children's literature to their inner children that still live inside of them. And so I have that podcast there. And when you're on my site, I would love for you to click the little tab on the top that says Free Literate Love, because one of my all-time favorite things, as I mentioned, is recommending books to readers. And on that page, I have what I call a snail mail book recommendation. And so it's free. You just have to fill in the Google Doc. You tell me just a few little things about yourself, your physical mail address, if you're okay with that. And I send you a personalized book postcard where I handwrite on the front that looks like a library card, the book, the author, and why I think you'll love it, a little message from me on the back. And I love them. I have a Google map of where in the world my postcards have been, and we're hitting multiple countries, and it's so much fun. So make sure to click that Free Literate Love link, put in your request for a postcard. And on that site, you'll also be able to learn more about the book Apothecary, the coaching, and my restorative reading course, where I teach you exactly how to bring those 30 minutes into your life at lunch if you want. We could figure out how to do that.
Oh my gosh, I love it. My face actually is sore from
From the
smiling so
smiling.
big. Thank you so much. This is beautiful. We will link everything down in the show notes. I adore you. Thank you for your time. I cannot wait to play with you more.
Thank you so much. This was wonderful. Thank you, Wendy.
My pleasure. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site, or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wrighthouse and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.